Welcome to the FF Forge. My name is Steve, and today we will start our journey, I guess, with the wide receivers for the rankings videos, all coming out today on Wednesday, a couple hours apart from each other throughout the day. These are my preliminary rankings. You can find my final rankings Saturday night or Sunday morning live with me an hour before kickoff is really going to be the true final rankings. But throughout the week, they will be up on the website as of Thursday, midday-ish, on www.theffforge.com. There is a link down in the description to that. As far as the wide receivers video goes, I start with the top 60 ECR and then move them around from there. Now, sometimes I can play some mind games with me, and maybe I don't get guys up as far or down as far as I would like. Also, sometimes some of the rankings on the ECR rankings right now can be a little bit funky due to potential injuries or players that are questionable that some people have ranked, others don't, until there's a little bit more consensus on that can really have some impact on those. So I'll try to point those types of things out when they come up. But as far as what we will be looking at is going to be the players that I have either the most significantly above the ECR. Those are going to be highlighted in green, and you can see all the differences over here from me to the ECR. And then, of course, the most significant amount of players below the ECR. Like Michael Pittman here, I have 5 spots below the ECR. I have him at 18. ECR on him is 13. So let's just start out with my top 12 here. I have Cooper Kupp as my number 1 this week, followed by Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs, Devontae Adams, Jamar Chase, A.J. Brown, DeAndre Hopkins, Jalen Waddle, Amon-Ra St. Brown, CeeDee Lamb, Deebo Samuel, and Amon-Ra St. Brown is really the only one that we will be talking about in this grouping because I have him 4 spots above ECR. The ECR on him is 14. I have him at 10. It's a really, really good matchup against Miami here. Apparently, the concussion that he got taken out of the game for is non-existent, so hopeful that he will be able to play this week, and I'm sure his ranking will go up even higher once we know that he's playing for sure. I don't think it really matters how high I would put him. You're starting all of these guys. Let's move on to the next 12, the wide receiver 2s, starting off at wide receiver 13 with Mike Evans, followed by Gabriel Davis, T. Higgins, Chris Olave, Devonta Smith, Michael Pittman Jr., Tyler Lockett, Amari Cooper, Courtland Sutton, Chris Godwin, Brandon Ayuk, and Deontay Johnson wrapping that up at the 24 spot. I have Chris Olave ranked 16, 4 spots ahead of the ECR, going up against Las Vegas. As you can see, it's a really nice matchup there. By the way, this is the matchup difficulty. Green is good, red is bad, white is right there in the middle. Neutral, you could say. And so as you see, Chris Olave, really, really good matchup this week. He's been playing really well. I would find it hard to not put him in my lineup this week. Same with Devonta Smith, who I have also 4 spots ahead of ECR of him at 17, ECR is 21. Maybe not as great of a matchup there. Pittsburgh has been looking better as of late, but it's the Philadelphia offense. I definitely trust that offense, and do I trust that Devonta Smith will, be the one this week, or A.J. Brown will be the one this week? Well, I think we've seen both of them have some success even together in several games. It's just not something I'm willing to overlook this week compared to some of the other matchups for players or issues going on with quarterbacks. For instance, with this next guy, Michael Pittman, who we already said 5 spots behind the ECR. ECR is 13. I have him at 18. Going up against Washington, so it is a smash matchup there. Really great matchup for Pittman. Unfortunately, Sam Ehlinger will be playing, and it's just a mystery, and it's a mystery that if I had 2, 3, 4 wide receivers, however many you need, above him here, then I would rather play them. It's that simple. There's just a few too many question marks with that. I think I wanted to mention that Tyler Lockett may move up a little bit from here. Just something that when I was looking over these again, I was like, Tyler Lockett might be a little low there. As far as Courtland Sutton goes, I have 4 spots ahead of ECR. If I'm at 21, the ECR is 25, and this truly just comes down to if Russell Wilson is the quarterback this week. If Russell Wilson is not the quarterback this week, I will believe what we saw last week, that Jerry Jeudy's the preferred target there for Ripien, and I will move Courtland Sutton back a decent margin. Now, this is a slightly lukewarm matchup going up against Jacksonville, so that's good. That's working in favor of them this week. Oh, I didn't want to do that. Let's move on to Chris Godwin, who I have 7 spots behind the ECR. The ECR in Chris Godwin is 15. I have him at 22. It's just too many concerns going on there in Tampa Bay, and with the type of targets that these guys are getting as far as how deep they are, the amount of pressure getting on Tom Brady. It is a decent matchup. It's a neutral matchup going up against Baltimore this week. So that's great, but there are just other players that right now have performed better that I would rather have over Chris Godwin in my lineup. It's that simple. So I'll see what the projections say on him. That's going to definitely be a player that I will be listening to what the projections are saying to a certain extent. Then on to Brandon Ayuk, and when I say I have my own projections, and that's what you will see up on the website as well, which is why these are only the preliminary rankings very specifically. I have Brandon Ayuk 5 spots ahead of the ECR. I have him at 23. ECR is 28. Going against the Rams, it's a neutral-ish matchup, and this isn't because I love Brandon Ayuk. This just has to do with some of the other players' matchups as much as anything. He's had a pretty good run here. I do like the weapons on that offense all the more going forward. So until this San Francisco defense is healthy for sure again and back to being a dominant defense, I'm all the more happy with the weapons for this passing attack. Now let's move on to the wide receiver 3s. Starting off at the 25th wide receiver in my rankings, Terry McLaurin, followed by Jacoby Myers, Christian Kirk, DJ Moore, Rashad Bateman, Tyler Boyd, Allen Lazard, George Pickens, Brandon Cooks, Adam Thielen, Jerry Jeudy, and Drake London. Just real quick on Jerry Jeudy, once again, this is very much dependent on if Russell Wilson is playing or not. I could definitely see him moving up a decent ways here. Maybe Red Road there. Now I have Rashad Bateman 4 spots ahead of the ECR. As you can see, I have him at 29. ECR in him is 33. Not a great matchup against Tampa Bay. Not the worst. It's just a little bit in the negative there. I might have to retract this, though. Rashad Bateman did not practice today. It is a short week for them, playing on Thursday. So definitely some concern, especially after last week. And this is terrible. I'm getting attacked by the yawns again, just like I did last week. Now let's move on to Tyler Boyd, who I have 8 spots ahead of the ECR. I have him at 30. ECR is 38. It is, once again, a good matchup here for Cincinnati going up against Cleveland. I don't know what else to say. It's a good matchup. It's a guy who's been on fire. It just comes down to I'll take the weapons on an offense like this over some of these other players, especially when like Allen Lazard, George Pickens are in such bad matchups. Then I'll just take old reliable in Tyler Boyd for now, and I'm quite positive my projections will like him this week because I already had to. I didn't quite listen to my projections last week. I did a little bit. I had him quite a bit higher than the ECR at the end of the week. He did nothing to make my projections like him less, that's for sure. Now let's move on to Brandon Cooks, who I have 6 spots behind the ECR. The ECR in him is 27. I have him at 6. Going up against Tennessee, so this is a good matchup. If Nico Collins gets back, I'll actually like Brandon Cooks a little bit more. When they don't have any threats, it's just cover Brandon Cooks. It's that easy for a defense. He always has some upside, but we've seen that not come true enough times that I really don't think he's a good flex option. I think he's a flex option here at 33, or a back-end wide receiver 3 in other terms. Now let's move on to the wide receiver 4s, starting off at wide receiver 37 with Rondale Moore, followed up with Wan'Dale Robinson. Hope I said Rondale and Wan'Dale properly there. Then Darnell Mooney, Alec Pierce, Michael Gallup, Curtis Samuel, Romeo Doubs, Isaiah McKenzie, Hunter Renfrow, Garrett Wilson, Allen Robinson II, and Devin Duvernay, wrapping that grouping up at 48. Now, I have Rondale Moore 4 spots ahead of ECR. Going up against Minnesota, it's a fairly decent matchup. Not too shabby, pretty good. And I don't know. I'm expecting him to go into the slot this week, where he should be, in which case I think he will benefit from that offense just being better. That's what else more do I need to say? I like Rondale enough this week, and obviously even the experts aren't hating him even after last week. Now let's move on to Wan'Dale Robinson, who's not in such a great matchup going up against Seattle. I have him 7 spots ahead of ECR. Definitely somebody I'll be looking to see what my projections are saying on him, but for now, it's just like, oh, Darnell Mooney. I'll take the guy who I know is going to be getting more targets in also a better matchup. Alec Pierce, well, we know my concerns with that offense, even though it's such a great matchup. That moves us right on to Michael Gallup here, who I have 10 spots behind the ECR. Experts have him at 31. I have him at 41. Not a great showing last week. That's not the only reason, though. Going up against Chicago this week, do expect Dallas to once again attack through the ground first. And so that means a limited amount of opportunities for the receivers in general there, especially after last week. Obviously, that doesn't give me anything to say, hey, you should definitely start Michael Gallup. He's still someone I like and want to keep on rosters, but I do want to see it. I don't think Noah Brown is a nobody either, so they just might cannibalize each other too much. It's always possible, especially if they're not passing a lot there in Dallas. Now let's move on to Curtis Samuel, who I have 8 spots behind ECR. Curtis Samuel's at 34. The ECR and him's 34. I have him at 42. Also, not a wonderful matchup. What happened? Not a wonderful matchup there, but not a terrible matchup going against Indianapolis. I feel like we haven't seen much from Curtis Samuel, and the upside I just don't love, so that's where I'm willing to take some of these upsides or guaranteed amount of targets and some of these other matchups compared to Curtis Samuel. Just that easy. Then we have Isaiah McKenzie, who I have 4 spots ahead of the ECR, 44. ECR and him must be 48 then. Yeah, there we go. My vision wasn't working for a moment. And going up against Green Bay, which is still not a wonderful matchup, even though a lot of people seem to think it is. Just as far as fantasy points scored, teams, I guess, don't have to score a whole lot against Green Bay in order to beat them. Might be that simple. I think there's also a fairly balanced attack that's going against Green Bay, so it's just one or the other. But here's the thing about the players for Buffalo this week. I think it's been pretty clear, I said it last week, that for these Buffalo players, when they're in a tight matchup, they tend to go with the big bombastic deep attack for throwing the ball deep. The Gabriel Davis, the Stephon Diggs. When they're in a matchup that they know that they can win, they tend to eat clock and go to the slot more and throw it to Devin Singletary more. Now, going up against Green Bay, the question is, do they respect Aaron Rodgers and enter the first half with the plan of attack of being that short game, that Devin Singletary, Isaiah McKenzie type of game? Or are they just not really afraid of the Packers based on everything that they've seen this year on tape, and they go with the deep attack? I don't know. So I kind of have all of those Buffalo players ranked fairly well, just thinking that either game plan is possible. I do think that they'll start off with the game plan of the Isaiah McKenzie and a Singletary type of attack, the shorter game, the eat clock game, the possession game. But if the score is not like 17-3 at half, then they'll come out in the second half, going deep, doing the bombs, unleashing Josh Allen, essentially. And that'll bring us to our wide receiver 5s. Starting off at wide receiver 49, I have Paris Campbell, followed by Robert Woods, Devontae Parker, Josh Reynolds, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Noah Brown, Chase Claypool, Zay Jones, Mac Hollins, Darius Slayton, Tyquan Thornton, and Russell Gage. I have Robert Woods 10 spots behind the ECR. I have him at 50. ECR is at 40. Going up against Houston is looks like a ever so slightly positive matchup there for the receivers. I don't care. Robert Woods hasn't done anything to make me want to play him this season, so I don't know why he's ranked this highly, to be frank. I don't think I have to explain myself on this one. And yeah, that is it. Then on to Chase Claypool, I have 11 spots ahead of ECR. He's at 44. I have him 55th. Going up against Philadelphia, very, very scary defense. What rankers may be doing here is something I do plenty. I mean, I do like to shoot for upside at a certain point at positions, and you expect Philadelphia to put up some points, which could mean that Pittsburgh has all the more opportunities to throw the ball and put up points. And of course, Chase Claypool is a big play boy. So, I mean, that's always possible, but for the most part, that hasn't been what's been happening for Chase other than 2 weeks ago this season. So I would rather see him go off on my bench and maybe become a usable piece or get traded to a different team and be in a better situation than watch him do nothing in my starting lineup like my opponent last week. So let's move on to Zay Jones, who I have 7 spots behind the ECR. The ECR is 49. I have him at 56, going up against Denver. And so Zay Jones is a deep target guy. He is what helps to open things up for a Christian Kirk. And Denver's not the easiest defense to set up long throws against, so that has me scared. Now, Baron Browning is down and out this week for Denver, so that could definitely loosen things up in the middle of that defense, which affects everybody to differing extents, but I don't know how much it affects the defense until we see it. A bad outcome from Denver's defense without him, I just can't write that in ink. So Zay Jones is not somebody I'm super excited to try out this week of all weeks. Just don't like that matchup. And that is it for the wide receivers. Once again, rankings will be up on the website as of tomorrow. These are preliminary. And my running back video will be coming out shortly this morning. So happy morning, happy fantasy week. I hope your waivers went well. If you still have waivers to go, or if you just still are looking to possibly make some changes on the waiver wire, I do provide a fairly deep list, especially at the wide receiver position and for running backs as well, in my waiver wire videos, which was posted the other day. So you can check that out on my page if you want to go there. So thank you very much. Peace out. Bye-bye. I'll see you very soon.